So Sid, as you moved on to what we look at as a level 4 and a level 5, where you're actually moving to project profitability and revenue recognition, let's put a little focus here on this level 5, because this is really where you guys are now getting ready to move into. And that's where you're actually allocating indirect or non-project driven costs, whether that be management salaries, whether that be rent and things like that, and allocating those down to a project profitability. And where we tend to see organizations starting to have this need is they start seeing that they're profitable at a project level, but then when they look at the organization, that profitability isn't the same, or they're not profitable. And this is because you start getting heavier as you grow. You tend to put in extra management up at the top. You have more hard costs, rent, insurance, things like that may not be allocated against the labor costs. And if you're not allocating those costs down, you're getting a skewed project profitability. Or you may be on a close to being project profitable, and then this allocation actually throws it out. And so that starts pointing out where there's a problem in the model, or there's a problem in the costing structure. And so as you guys are starting to move into this step, because you've automated some of the other ones, tell us a little about some of the things that you're looking to get to, and some of the challenges that you see, or some of the things that you're considering as you're going through that process.
Reached a point in our organization where we need to hire people that are going to add significant indirect costs to our organization. When you have almost 100 consultants, you need the backbone to support them. And we need to make some difficult decisions, how we're going to invest in what resources. And again, up to now, we didn't have the ability to allocate indirect costs to each specific project. And with Intact, we're going to be able to get the detail we need by project and by client to understand the exact profitability and how much we as an organization can absorb in additional indirect costs.
And so when you go and you look at this, obviously one of the challenges that we see that organizations have to go through is how should I allocate this project? Should I be based off of the labor hours of the project? Should it be based off of the revenue recognized in the current period of the project? What are some of the items that you guys are considering and looking at to determine how that could be allocated, or some of your thoughts?
That's a really good question. My feeling, it really should be based on the amount of resources and time put into each specific project and client, and then allocating the indirect costs using those percentages. I feel in our organization that would make the most sense.
And I think the other thing that people have to remember as you go through this, and this is something that was pounded into our heads when we were accountants in school, is opportunity cost, right? Is while this is giving us another measure of profitability, there may be other pieces that go into it where if I don't have enough projects to allocate those costs against, it doesn't really matter. And that's something that says we're too heavy on our top side or indirect costs, and we have to make our adjustments. And so just by not doing a project doesn't necessarily mean that cost goes away. It's being absorbed by another component. And so that becomes one of the things, or the common pitfalls that we see organizations run into, is that they bundle this in with the rest of the project profitability, adding it in there and using it to be another analysis standpoint, but not taken without understanding opportunity cost, and that you may be top heavy from an organization. Are those some of the things that you've seen in your previous life, Sid, as you've grown professional services organization?
We have, and I have personally, and it's also important when you're looking at your pipeline and understanding the indirect costs and what you need as an organization to sustain all of your indirect costs. And you may have to make some decisions on your proposals in respect to discounting, because if you have people on the bench and you have your consultants on the bench and you have all this overhead, you may have to make a tough decision and lower your price in order to get that business, to not only take care of your consultants, but also to absorb all your indirect costs. And before, we just didn't have that information.
Well, and that's kind of a key, especially with the COVID situation, is that the knowledge that has been built into your consultants to do what they do, you had to do what it took to make sure that they're staying around so that when things start opening up again, you don't have to rebuild that knowledge, right? And so that's one of the things that needs to be taken into on this allocation is not reducing your professional services or your knowledge base through this, but actually figuring out how to use that information to make adjustments in the process.
And that's exactly what we did when COVID hit. And we made a business decision to not let anyone go. We made some small changes in our costs. We asked our employees to take a minor pay cut, and we are a success story in respect to the PPP. And because when business turned around, we had a full staff who could hit the ground running and do the work. And if we would have let people go, we would have been in big trouble. And then once we recovered, we returned to our employees their pay cut. Again, without PPP and without the accounting system to track this, we would have been in big trouble.
Absolutely.